Hello, hooray, let the show begin. My name is Luke Stone, and this is the Comics Project. As you can see from the title, today we are going to be dealing with something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is Christian comics and what the problem with them is. Now, let me preface what I'm about to say today with saying that I am not against Christian comics. Obviously, I'm a pastor. I love Christianity. I love God. That's what I'm all about. But I also love comics. Now, over the years, Christian material has really improved. I think about Christian music. I do that. I play that. In fact, sometimes you'll hear that playing back on the background on the channel. So Christian music has improved over the years. It started out kind of cheesy and lame, but to the point now to where even major pop stars are sampling Christian rappers in their own music. So the Christian music genre has gotten better. The artists have gotten better. The quality has gotten better. Christian movies has improved tremendously over the course of the last decade. You start seeing these faith-based movies and things that are coming out. In fact, one of them, and I don't get paid to sponsor it, but I do want to let you know, one called An Interview with God. It's really, really good. And so there are a lot of really positive and really good quality Christian things out there. Books are getting better. Everything seems to be getting better except for Christian comics. And as far as Christian comics goes, we have a long way to go to catch up. You see, now over the course of the last few weeks, I have been able to help people in a consulting type relationship when it comes to creating faith-based comics. I don't know how I became the guy that people go to for that, because I'm not an expert on comics at all. I am literally just trying to figure out how to get through this stuff and do my best to make a good book and find new readers for it and kind of wade my way through the indie comic industry. I know there's not much of a voice out there for some of the indies unless you kind of know somebody, and so that's really kind of what we're trying to promote, and especially with Star-Crossed Comics, because most of us, not all of us, but some of us, I say most, but some are faith-based people, and our books are faith-based. And so, but I haven't had the opportunity to talk with several people about their stories, and it seems like there's one theme that keeps coming up, and I want to talk about that today. The theme is really who your audience is and what the purpose of your book is. Now, I think before you write any script, before you really dig into your concept, I think you need to know what that is. So let's talk about who your audience is real quick. So as far as your audience goes, are you trying to reach the believer, the Christian, or the non-believer? And I want you to take some time to think about that, because who it is that you are targeting is going to change how you write your book, and especially from the perspective of your faith. So it's important. For instance, if you're trying to reach a Christian audience, let's say you are trying to make the book that a parent isn't worried about letting their kid read a comic. They want their kids want to read comics, but they don't want to let them read things that are going to portray acts that they don't like, or try to indoctrinate them in some kind of political view or something like that. You just want to have some freedom, and so you're trying to create a book that allows people to do that, or you want Christians to be able to see a book that reflects people of faith in a positive way. Let's be really positive. Let's be really serious. Most of the time in mainstream media, Christians aren't portrayed in a positive light. So maybe you're trying to do that. Or maybe your purpose is discipleship. Maybe you're trying to teach them a little bit on how to live out their faith, which is a good thing. But the unfortunate thing is, so for Christian comics, most of the time they're written like a 20-page Bible tract, like something that someone would knock on your door and hand you, on a Saturday or something. And most people aren't interested in that. And I think I fall into that category. I'm not really interested in that. Billy Graham would say that, no one is any more saved than the other person. You're either saved or you're not. It's kind of a pass-fail kind of thing. There's no degrees of salvation. Now, there's degrees of discipleship and there's degrees of growing in your faith, but you're either saved or you're not. And so some of the problem with that is if you're making a Christian comic, it's usually geared as an evangelistic tool. And by that, I mean it's written about salvation or how to get saved or things like that. And so it's geared towards a different audience than a Christian audience. And so let's say, for instance, your audience let's say what you're trying to do is share your faith with people and let them know how to get saved and why salvation is important and why they might want to explore more about this God thing. Well, the problem with that is when you're doing that in a book, it comes across sometimes very cheesy, very preachy. And worse yet, it looks very Christian. We try to make it very Christian. In fact, one of the things that I run into often is like I'm either... I haven't been told that I'm too Christian for mainstream comics, but I have been told that I wasn't Christian enough by other Christians who don't understand what I'm trying to do, and they don't understand the genre. So there can be some of that issue there. So once you kind of determine your audience, who is it that you're trying to reach? Are you trying to reach the not church, the not Christian person? Then from there, you have to determine what your purpose is. Well, what is my purpose for the not Christian person? Am I trying to entertain them? Okay, hopefully you are, because comics should be entertaining. Am I trying to provoke some kind of thought? Well, yeah, hopefully, maybe. But hopefully you're not preaching a message, necessarily, People can tell if the books get preachy. They can tell that you've got an agenda. I think that's the same problem that happens on the other side of the aisle. People are trying to push an agenda about something else that might be anti your Christian faith or things like that. So you want to be careful with that. The other thing that I would consider is are you just trying to, so like I said, just trying to show Christians in a positive light? Are you trying to help people understand your viewpoint? And I think that might be the best thing to do with, as a Christian inside of the comic genre, is not necessarily try to use it as an opportunity to evangelize, but as an opportunity for people to understand the Christian point of view or the Christian worldview. So that they can see things through your eyes and in the process, maybe be able to connect a little bit more with you on a personal level. So, and really that's kind of what any kind of media like this is you're trying to help people understand how things look through your eyes so that they can connect with you and you can connect with them. And so if your audience is not church, then you probably aren't going to want to stick crosses on there and put God in the title or Christian in the title, because it's probably going to be off-putting to that audience if that's who you're trying to reach. Now, if you are trying to reach the Christian, then you want to consider about what you're trying to do. You're not going to give them the gospel message because they have already got it, right? No one's any more saved than any other person. You can't get any more saved than what you are right now. So what are we trying to do? Are we trying to give them something that's entertaining? Well, yes, hopefully, because that's what comics are all about. It's supposed to be entertaining. Are we wanting to provoke thought? Well, yes, hopefully we're trying to provoke some thought for them about their faith and how their faith can play a part in every aspect of their life. That's called discipleship. And hopefully we're giving them opportunities in our writing and in our storytelling to see how their faith can be played out in some very complicated interpersonal relationships and things like that. So when you're creating your comic book, you're writing your story, I'd always want, and this is a thing that I've been telling for the last several weeks, choose your audience and choose your purpose. Who are you trying to reach and what are you trying to tell them? Use comics that way. Use the medium that way. And unfortunately, I think that we've all seen these as the comics that come across very kind of cheesy, kind of dorky. I have seen in the last year 4 different comic book pitches or comic books that have been published, self-published, that look like a Christian version of the Power Rangers, and come across really, really hokey. Because they're trying to reach an unchurched audience, but they're using church language and church expectations. And that's a problem because most of the church, sorry to say, but they're a little bit out of touch. So if you're going to try to reach someone that's not in the church, don't use what I call Christianese. Leave all of that out. Explain things in a way that anybody could understand them. Normal language. And be original with it. Now, I'll use Hybrids as an example. My book, Hybrids, is not a Christian comic book. And you're like, Pastor, how can you say that? How are you writing a book that's not Christian? Well, it's not. But it does have a Christian worldview. It is written through my eyes with my particular morals and values in mind. It reflects morals and values that I get from a life of faith, my Christian faith. Not only does it do that, it is intended to entertain, but I do want to provoke a little bit of thought in the book. I want people to think about faith. I want them to think differently about people of faith. And I also want to give people an opportunity to see how faith can play out in complicated situations. So some of you have already gotten issues 1 through 3, or will be getting 1 through 3 of Hybrids, the Sons of Gods. And the purpose between Hybrids, and what you'll see in here, is kind of an evolution of some characters. And in issues 4 and 5, a lot of things take place, and we really have some interesting conversations taking place between the characters. So not only are we dealing with superpowers and things like that in this book, but we're trying to get people to see the real, honest kind of human condition that people can be in, and deal with those problems and reconcile faith with things that go on in the world. We live in a world that's pretty jacked up, it's pretty broken, and there are days when we have to realize that, some bad things happen to some really good people. And that doesn't make God any less real. It doesn't make him any less loving. But it does mean that maybe our view of Christianity and of God might not be in line with the real guy. So that is kind of my advice to you. If you are a Christian and you're trying to make a comic book, first and foremost, pick who's my audience and what's my purpose. If you can answer those 2 things, then you can build the rest of your script and your story off of that. But please don't start drawing pages before you have this figured out. This has to be the primary thing that you do. Who is your audience? What is the purpose of the book? So, as always, I like to say, keep making comics and just be cool to each other. The world is pretty rough, and there's too many people hating on each other, screaming at each other, picking on each other for no reason. Just be cool to each other, okay? Have a great day. God bless.